welcome back to Tony Reads. Okay, so I'm so excited to be back, everyone. I don't think I've made a booktube video in over a year, and I haven't finished a book probably in over a year as well. So I was on a reading slump, clearly, and I just couldn't get myself to pick up my Kindle. So I had a long time ago when Freida McFadden's book, The Intruder, first came out. I downloaded it on my Kindle and I actually started the book. The book didn't keep my interest. Now I don't know if because at that point in time I thought the book was stupid or boring, or I just wasn't into reading. But what I gather is that I probably just wasn't into reading anymore. And so I never finished it. I don't even know if I got halfway through the book. But anyway, one day I was just like, you know what? I'm curious about what's going to happen at the end. I really want to try and finish that book, The Intruder. And so I went ahead, I had to charge my Kindle. That's how long I hadn't been reading. So I charged my Kindle up, got it all juiced up and ready. And I started back reading The Intruder by Freida McFadden. I ended up finishing the book. The book, it wasn't Freida McFadden's best book, but it definitely wasn't the worst. I think prior to that, the last book I had read by Freida was The Crash, and it was like a million times better than The Crash, in my opinion. And so I finished that book. This is all in May. I finished that book, and I also finished another book that I'm going to talk about a little bit later that I I would go as far as say it's probably one of the best books that I've read. But anyway, so back to The Intruder by Freida McFadden. For those of you that are familiar with my channel, I don't give spoilers, and if I ever did or was going to, I would definitely do a spoiler alert. So you have nothing to worry about. I'm not going to give away any of the plot twist. And so The Intruder starts off. Another thing about me, I do not remember people's names. I don't even remember people's names hardly in real life. So for books, I really don't remember people's real names. I might have them right and they might be wrong, but anyway, you'll get the gist of it. So The Intruder by Freida McFadden, it starts off, I don't even know if it starts off like this, but so how the book setting is, there is a lady named Casey, and she used to be a teacher. And so, but now she's no longer a teacher for whatever reason. You'll find out later in the book. She lives out in a secluded house or cabin or whatever. So it's something that's raggedy and it's something way secluded out in the middle of nowhere. She has a neighbor. I don't remember his name. She doesn't really like him, but he kind of acts like he likes her or whatever. But he lives way down the way. It's walking distance, but it's a long walk down the way. So anyway, she's secluded. There's going to be this big storm coming. Her landlord, who she can't stand, he doesn't fix anything or whatever, who she's renting the house from. He tries to say, I guess, that her roof is steady enough for this big giant storm or whatever. And she's concerned that maybe it's not or whatever. But anyway, so that's that. That's him. Big storm is coming. The lights go out. She sees a figure creeping around outside, or a typical thriller story or whatever. And come find out it's this girl, a young girl, maybe 12 or 13. I might have the age wrong. And she feels bad for her. She's out in the pouring down rain and wind and everything is scary out there. She lets her in and she ends up kind of like regretting it. The girl is not the friendliest girl. She doesn't trust Casey at all. Tracy noticed that she keeps this backpack on her and she sees like red stains on it and just all this weird creepy stuff or whatever. They're not really getting along, but she's giving her food because the girl looks like she hasn't eaten in a long time, and just all this craziness with that. She's wondering, is the girl gonna try to blah, 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 whatever. And so then, I like Freida McFadden's books and a lot of psychological thrillers, especially, they flash back from different characters or whatever. So now there's a young girl named, I don't remember her name actually. And I don't remember her name. And you guys, if you haven't read the book yet, I don't even need to say it right now. But she lives with her mom in like a townhouse, and her mom is actually a hoarder. And so something that I liked about this book that actually interested me was that I actually watched that show Hoarders, and it's not funny because those people really have a true psychological problem, but at the same time it's very entertaining to me, the things they try to pull and the reasons why they want to save stuff. And so her mom was a hoarder, and so I could kind of resonate with that because I watched that show so much. I mean, they had rotten pumpkins, all kinds of rotten food, thousands of ink pens and pencils. And for some reason, I don't know why hoarders, I don't know if Freida McFadden got this off the show or whatever, they love to have a big old fish tank, actually more than one. I guess so it's so that they can hoard more stuff and put it into the empty fish tanks or whatever. So that they didn't have real furniture. They had mattresses that they slept on and used for a couch and The mom smoked, so it reeked also, in addition to all the rotten food and stuff, it reeked of cigarettes and all that kind of stuff. And the girl was embarrassed. The girl used to get teased at school. She didn't really have any friends or anything. She did end up befriending a boy who actually was a bully at first, but then they ended up becoming friends or whatever, blah, blah, blah. So the story flashes back between that young girl and Casey, and this young girl that's now in her house who, quote unquote, I guess is the intruder. I never really knew why Freida McFadden chose that name for it, but anyway. And so the story kind of drags, and to be honest, the scene with the girl who was being bullied at school with the hoarder mom, that was more entertaining and interesting to me. But the scene with Casey and the little girl who she let inside her house because it was raining and stuff outside, that part was more boring. It's more like them not trusting each other. The woman, Casey, trying to build a relationship or build trust, I won't say relationship, with this girl, not really trusting her, wondering what she had in that backpack, wondering where the red stains came from, wondering why this girl's here and why was she out in these woods or whatever, and all that kind of stuff. And it's kind of like just going and going and going. And that part was kind of boring to me, and I think that might be why I initially didn't finish the book. But anyway, so I was real curious about what was going to happen, so I ended up finishing it. Yes, there was a plot twist. Was it predictable? Yes. I didn't predict it because I don't read a book sitting there trying to say, I want to predict this and check it off on a checkbox or whatever. I don't, of course you're reading it and you're like, I think it was John. I think it was the butler. I think it was the babysitter or something like that, obviously. But it's not entertaining to me. It comes like a chore if I'm trying to really do a whodunit and predict who did it or whatever. Some people, for them, that's a badge of honor. To me, I'd rather not be able to predict the ending. That makes it more interesting to me. But anyway, that's just me. So it had plot twists and everything. It's a typical Freida book. I won't say it's like a real hardcore psychological thriller or anything, but it was a little bit entertaining. Again, I don't know if I said this already. It wasn't Freida McFadden's best, by far not the best. Probably in her top 5 worst, probably, I would say, but it was much better than The X and The Crash to me. And so I would probably give this book maybe 3 stars, kind of, 2.5, 3 stars or something like that if I was were to put it as a 5-star rating. But it was okay. I don't regret reading or anything like that, but it just wasn't the best. And if you're the type that gets bored easily, this book might be kind of boring to you. It was kind of boring to me. But anyway, so I'm like, okay, well, I'm still, even though that book was kind of boring, I was like, I think I'm back into reading now. I think I'm out of this slump. And so what I did is I sat there and I was thinking about all the books the many videos I've made saying, ooh, I want to read this thriller this summer and da-da-da-da-da. I can't wait to read this. This is on my TBR. And I thought, I just wanted to just think very lightly. I didn't want to put anything too deep in it. But I wanted the first book that came to my mind that was a book that I really, really wanted to read. And the first book that popped up is a book called Wonderland by Jennifer Hillier. So first of all, I want to say this book is not new. It's like, I think when I originally mentioned it or looked at it, I thought it was brand new, but it's not. It was published in 2015. That's like real old for me. That's before my reading time or whatever. So I want to say thank you because a lot of you subscribers actually recommended Jennifer Hillier to me. I don't think I've read any of her books yet, but she was on my radar, definitely. And then last but not least, to top it all off as far as recommendations, Freida McFadden herself actually recommended this book. I'm in a Freida McFadden group, and she gets on there and actually chimes in and talks to some people, answers questions and stuff. I think it's an official group or whatever. And she'll give her recommendations sometimes, and she's recommended other books that I've read that I actually love. So I do trust her judgment on books. And so she said this book was I'm not quoting her or anything, but she basically said it was excellent. And it was the type of book that she didn't even want the book to end. Now, for me, that's kind of a strong statement because I'm the type, I like short books, like 300 pages or 300-ish, 350 maybe, or less. And so I kind of be wanting the book to end, to be honest, no matter how good the book is. I actually want to just get to it and move on to the next one. She said she actually didn't want it to end, which means it was something that was very hard for her to put down. And so I was like, if she said that, I've loved her other recommendations. I think I'm going to check this one out. It's the first one that literally popped in my mind. One of the reasons why it popped up in my mind first is because I could relate to the book, because the book is actually, the setting is in Seaside, Oregon, sorry. is Seaside in Washington or Oregon? I don't remember. But anyway, I'm from Washington State. And when you want to go to the beach, you either go to Ocean Shores or you go down to Seaside or whatever. And so it's down there, but I don't know if Seaside is part of Oregon or it's part of Washington, like down there around that border or whatever. I can't remember. But anyway, I've been there enough times where I totally could relate. They make mentions of Seattle and Tacoma and everything. And so it's like totally my area. I'm like, okay, cool. The other thing is I love amusement parks, and the main setting and the story is centered around an amusement park. The amusement park is called Wonderland. It used to be called World of Wonder a long time ago, like back in the 80s. A man owned it. It was a huge attraction. It brought major money to Seaside and everything, but the man was doing bad things. And so that, his reign of owning it ever ended. And all the people in the town hated him or whatever. They didn't want to mention his name or anything. But another man ended up buying it. He kind of revamped it a little bit, but kept some little old school stuff for the nostalgia or whatever. And people loved that place. So and everything I'm telling you is kind of important to the story, but it's not giving away anything. So all the teenagers that lived in Seaside, basically you pretty much go work at Wonderland during the summer. And you could start as early as 14. And they actually, even for people who didn't live in Seaside, or even if you did, I guess, but like kids from Seattle and everything came down, they had like dorms set up. So like it was like you could stay there for the summer and work there. And so they had all kinds of jobs or whatever, making hot dogs, running the games and everything, or being one of the monsters in one of the haunted houses, clowns and all that kind of stuff. And so you could do all that kind of stuff. And then like a lot of people, the kids didn't go to college. They wanted to stay there and they worked there and they move up into the management positions and work in the administrative offices versus being out in the actual amusement park. So anyway, that's that. And that's a huge part of the story, but I'm not going to go any deeper into that. And so the main character, I remember her name. It's Vanessa Castro. And I believe she is a character in some of Jennifer Hillier's other stories, but you don't need to read any other stories to read this book. There's no connection that you need to know or anything. And so she worked for Seattle Police Department, but she ended up transferring down to Seaside Police Department as the chief deputy sheriff or whatever you call it. It's like kind of like the second in charge. Or chief, I don't know, sheriff, I don't know, chief deputy something. It's whatever, it's the second in charge in a police department, I'll just say, in this small town, Seaside. And so she brought her kids. She has 2 kids. A teenage daughter is like 14, and then she has a son that's like 7 or whatever. They didn't really want to come. They wanted to stay in Seattle with their friends or whatever, but their dad, her husband, ended up dying like 6 months prior or whatever, so they just wanted to just get a new start and relocate. So anyway, how the story starts out is that there's a teenage boy, and it's either in the middle of the night or early in the morning where it's still dark, and he gets up on which one of the main attractions is this Ferris wheel. He climbs up to the top of the Ferris wheel, does a selfie, giving the finger in the selfie, and he posted on Instagram and Facebook and Twitter. And I remember this 2015. It wasn't X, it was Twitter back then. And also, it's kind of funny to me because I don't think teenagers really are on Facebook that much, but he posted on Facebook too. So I thought that was kind of hilarious. But anyway, and so he posted it, and it went viral or whatever, but no one ever seen him again after that. So that's that. And then that same, like the next morning or whatever, also a dead body that's face was chewed off was found at the amusement park right by that Ferris wheel. And so that's kind of the scene. That's what gets everything going and stuff. And when I tell you this book, this story, boy, almost everyone was a suspect, probably except the little boy and his sister or whatever. And if they weren't a suspect, like you would think they had something to do with it, because come find out, there's actually a lot of people, these teenage boys that were working there that went missing. And so the book really, it is definitely a page turner. I read this one actually pretty fast. I don't know how many days or whatever, but for me, if I read a book in 2 weeks, that's like pretty quick for me. But anyway, it was definitely a page turner. I have a low attention span, and I kept going, and I definitely wanted to get to the end and see who was responsible for this. And there was so many twists and so much drama and so much craziness going on and stuff. But yet it wasn't one of those ones that was so confusing with a million characters that you had to try to remember and, all this kind of stuff. It was really, 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 really good. So good. I'm definitely looking forward to reading some more of Jennifer Hillier's books. I can't wait. But yeah, and thank you guys for the recommendation about Jennifer Hillier. But yeah, it was an excellent book. I highly recommend it. I would probably give it, I do 5-star ratings, and I'm a little bit stingy now on what I give 5. I'm not going to give it 5, but I will say 4.5. It was one of the better books, probably in the top 5 maybe that I've ever read. It is kind of a crime. Of course, the main character is a cop, so it's kind of a crime cop like book. And sometimes I don't like those kind of books because they get too deep into the crime. You know, I don't want to watch Criminal Minds or whatever. I mean, read about Criminal Minds or whatever. I want just a book that's entertaining to me. And sometimes they get too deep in that jargon and stuff. And it's like, I don't even know what you're talking about or whatever. It didn't get that deep. It got a little just deep enough to know she was a cop and blah, 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 blah. You know, talk about investigations and all that kind of stuff, but not too deep where it gets confusing. So I did still like that. None of the characters, even the people that were really, really bad, were annoying to me. And some things that I don't think Jennifer Hillier was trying to be funny, but some of the things and some of the descriptions and everything actually were funny to me and entertaining, the way that she described some of the stuff. And she's actually another one that is really good at describing, because when she describes like a smell or a taste or how somebody looks, something like that, it makes me really be able to visualize and feel like I'm actually in the story. And so I like people do that. I don't want to go too far where they make the book like 1,000 pages, but I like just enough so I really feel like I'm in there. And this book, she really did do that. So I like, again, I've probably said this like 15 times already. I definitely recommend this book if you haven't read it already. Like I said, it's from 2015. Probably most of you guys who love thrillers have probably already read it. I'm late to the party as usual. But anyway, I'm really happy that I picked that one up. Again, I've been out of the loop as far as reading for so long. I'm behind. I know Freida McFadden's had some other books. I think she has something called Dear Debbie and Divorce that I think has came out already. I haven't read those yet, and she's allegedly my favorite author still. And a whole bunch of other books and a whole bunch of other authors. And I've made so many TBR videos and stuff, and I haven't read any of those books, so I'm behind. But anyway, if there's some good, hot, juicy, interesting, fast-paced, and short thrillers that you guys know of, some new releases or anything that have just come out like in 2026 or even 2025, because I wasn't reading then, drop those in the comments and let me know. And also, if you just want to recommend an author like you did with Jennifer Hillier, which really paid off, go ahead and recommend the author as well. I do want to try to branch out. If you guys know me, I was just like Freida McFadden and Riley Sager. That's all I ever read. But I'm trying to like branch out into other areas now. I do also like Noelle Ely, whatever her name is, something like that. And there's a couple other ones too. I haven't read so long, I forgot all the other authors' names or whatever, but that's kind of style I like. And again, no long books. This one was 434 pages, and it was almost, if it wasn't so good, I would have just been mad. It was almost too long. I prefer in the 3s, or even 2s would be better, 200 and something. But anyway, if you like this video, thumbs up. If you are watching this video and this is your first time here, or you're not subscribed to my channel, go ahead and hit that subscribe button and the notification button so you'll be notified every time I upload a new video. I'm not going away this time. I think I'm back into reading for sure, and I'm about to go hard. So anyway, drop those recommendations in the comments, and I will see you in the next video.